Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 25th regular meeting of Council. I'd like to first recognize that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation. Our clerk tonight will be Ms. Sheila Gurry. We also have Councillors Brown and Eastmere attending electronically. Tonight's regular meeting of Council will be held in accordance with the Community Charter and Council Procedure Bylaw 208, number 7272. So if during the meeting any member of the gallery has a question regarding an agenda item, please write down your name and the agenda item on the sheet, which is over on the table to the double doors to my left. Please note that the Council Procedure Bylaw states that questions will only be taken on staff reports, consent items, or other business items. It's one of those evenings where I think I can safely say I know pretty much everyone in the audience, and there are no people here who I will have to counsel about cheering and jeering or anything of that nature, so no, that includes you too, Bill. We trust you. So I think we're fairly safe in that tonight. There will be an opportunity though during the course of this meeting where a little clapping actually might be encouraged. We'll get to that in presentations. The first item on the agenda is the introduction of late items. Ms. Gurry, we have several, please.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, Council. For late items this evening, we have agenda item 8E, Hammond Bay Traffic Management. We're adding the presentation titled Departure Bay Force Main Twinning Traffic Management Strategy. For agenda item 12D, Woodgrove Area Plan, we're replacing attachment D, Master Development Plan Policy, with the attached version. As well, I'd like to note that for item 12D, the Woodgrove Area Plan, it does include a presentation which was attached to the agenda but was not noted on the front pages, so that is there. We're also adding agenda item 12E, a report titled Council Resolutions Update. For agenda item 13D, rezoning application number RA521 for 2565 Departure Bay Road, we're replacing zoning amendment bylaw 2026 number 4500.250 with the attached version and adding a delegation from Dave Patey. And finally, agenda item 16B, we're adding Councillor Hemmons' notice of motion regarding prohibited camping. And that's it, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Motion for adoption of the agenda is amended. Moved Councillor Hemmons, seconded Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. We have no minutes to adopt. Mayor's report. I'm going to start off on a somber note tonight. As many of you have already heard, it is with deep sadness that Council in this city marks the passing of Mr. Lloyd Sherry, who was a remarkable community leader whose legacy is woven into the fabric of this city. He passed away on May 13th, 2026, at the age of 88, leaving behind a lifetime of extraordinary service and dedication to the city he was so proud to call home. Born and raised in Nanaimo, Lloyd Sherry exemplified a lifelong commitment to public service and civic engagement. Elected to City Council in November 1980, he went on to serve the 104th to the 115th Council from 1981 through to 2011. He was the longest serving city councillor, also known in the early days as alderman, contributing 31 years of consecutive service. Throughout those years, he was steadfast and passionate in his advocacy for a strong, responsible civic governance, always guided by a deep sense of duty to the residents he represented. And I think it's safe to say for those of us and those listening who knew him, he brought not only experience but also a spirited and at times delightfully spicy approach to civic matters. He was never one to shy away from voicing his views, and his candid, energetic style which helped ensure that important issues were thoroughly debated and thoughtfully considered. Beyond his leadership on council, Mr. Sherry was deeply engaged in the life of the community. Alongside his beloved wife of 56 years, Bev, who sadly passed away in 2022, they were devoted members of the Traveling Squares Dance Club for 50 years, fostering connections and camaraderie. His generosity of spirit was evident in his many volunteer efforts, including his long-standing support of the Salvation Army Christmas Kettles, where he and Bev faithfully gave up their time year after year to help those in need, and well past an age where one would not be expected to sit in or stand in the cold. And I remember Lloyd and Bev very fondly wearing his exciting Christmas lights as part of the display, doing the Lord's work and ensuring that those who had were prepared to give and share with the rest of Nanaimo. Lloyd's interests were as diverse as they were meaningful. He was an active participant in the local amateur ham radio club, a member of the Loyal Order of the Moose, as well as the Fraternal Order of Eagles. He also served for many years on the Regional District of Nanaimo Heritage Committee, helping to preserve and celebrate the history that shapes our region. And in recognition of the tremendous contributions of Lloyd Sherry and his family, the sports field at Harewood Centennial Park was officially named Sherry Fields in September 2012. The lasting tribute reflects not only his personal dedication, but also the enduring impact of the entire Sherry family and what it had on the community. He will be remembered as a tireless public servant, a generous volunteer, and a proud Nanaimo resident, whose influence will continue to be felt for generations to come. I do not think it is inappropriate to say that those of you who knew Lloyd knew that he loved this city. He was proud of its history. He was conscious of it. He was grateful to being raised here, and he was grateful for what the city did for him and his family. And those 31 years of service, where he often topped the polls, reflected if he loved the city loved him. So on behalf of Nanaimo City Council staff and the citizens of our community, we extend heartfelt condolences to Mr. Sherry's family and friends. We honor his life, his service, and his unwavering commitment to the city that he did indeed love so much. To the mundane, we're seeking feedback on strategies to respond to sea level rise. We're moving into the second and final round of engagement for the Our Coastal City project, an initiative to develop a plan to better understand and respond to rising sea levels. Technical studies, including coastal floodplain mapping, have been completed to shed light on the sea level rise, risks that the community could be facing in the future, and based on the technical results, along with the community values revealed in the first round of engagement, initial options and strategies have been identified. Nanaimo residents can learn about these findings or provide feedback on options for responding to sea level rise by completing a survey open from May 19th to June 12th, 2026, and I encourage folks to do so. We have, it might surprise those of you who don't know this, we have over 30 kilometers of coastline. And in 2018, a sea level rise study identified 247 buildings and 757 lots in Nanaimo that are vulnerable to future coastal flooding, the majority of which are located in Departure Bay, Downtown, Protection Island, and Duke Point. We are obviously in an election year, so the city is recruiting workers for the 2026 general election. Application process is open from May 19th to June 12th. We're seeking experienced election workers for the 2026 general local election to be held on Saturday, October 17th, 2026. Applicants must be a minimum of 16 years of age and eligible to work in Canada. Anyone interested in working for the election can fill out an online application form or pick up a paper copy of the application at the Legislative Services Department in City Hall, located at 455 Wallace Street. Applications must be received by 4:30 p.m. on Friday, June the 12th. For more information and to complete the application form, please visit www.nanaimo.ca/elections. And we are also happily looking at new energy and a fresh look at the OV Arts Centre. The Old Victoria Arts Centre, Nanaimo's beloved arts venue and cultural hub at 25 Victoria Road, is entering an exciting new chapter under the guidance of the Nanaimo Performing Arts Guild, a volunteer advisory body of arts and culture professionals selected by the Nanaimo City Council. The venue is experiencing renewed energy, strategic investment, and a growing commitment to serve the community. The Guild is hosting 2 open houses this spring for anyone to drop in and learn more about the space. Wednesday, May 27th from 2 to 6 p.m. and Thursday, June 25th from 2 to 6 p.m. In addition, Guild members hold regular office hours at the OV Arts Centre, during which the venue is open for drop-in visits. So please take advantage of that opportunity. That concludes the Mayor's report. We are now on to presentations, and this is where you can clap if you feel like it or so disposed. Indeed, I encourage you to do so. The first is the city received honorable mention at the Provincial Awards of Excellence in the category of Events and Festivals Excellence for Luminous Paths, Nanaimo's 150 and Beyond. That was announced on April 30th at the BC Recreation and Parks Association, where they presented their annual provincial awards for excellence at the 2026 Symposium in Vancouver. These awards recognize outstanding programs, facilities, parks, and special events that have made an impact each year. The City of Nanaimo received honorable mention at the Provincial Awards of Excellence in the category Events and Festivals Excellence for Luminous Paths. Luminous Paths, Nanaimo's 150 and Beyond, was a free month-long winter art festival held from January 22nd to February 17th in Maffeo Sutton Park. I hope many of you attended. I did. It was created to commemorate Nanaimo's first city council meeting. The festival transformed a familiar public park into an immersive, illuminated cultural landscape. The festival featured 7 temporary light-based public art installations by local artists, alongside live music and dance performances, artist talks, guided tours, interactive cultural activities, and family-friendly programming. Art installations remained on display throughout the festival, allowing residents and visitors to experience the artwork at their own pace and encouraging repeat visitation. The Luminous Paths Festival stands out as a distinctly Nanaimo-born experience that blended creativity, technology, and placemaking, and encouraged residents to see their city in new ways. This is the second honor that the city has received for Luminous Paths, Nanaimo's 150 and Beyond. The festival also received the 2025 Creative City Impact Award for cultural events from the Creative City Network of Canada. We're going to have a small presentation down here at the front, and I'm going to ask all 3 of you going to come down, please. Come on. Darcy Osborne, Adrian Mercer-Breen, and Jamie Brett-Sine, most identified with this particular project. Congratulations. And the next item on the agenda is Chris Schulberg, Heritage BC's Lifetime Achievement Award. Mr. Home is going to speak to this, but I'd be remiss if I didn't at least say right off the bat, Chris Schulberg retired, and we all miss him terribly. He a tremendous contributor to the city, Mr. Heritage himself. I'll turn it over to Mr. Home.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, we're very pleased to have Chris back this evening to recognize an award that he's received from the Heritage BC, the Lifetime Achievement Award. So that's in recognition of individuals who've made a career-long cumulative impact, contributing to the practice, understanding, and advocacy of heritage in BC. So he's been recognized by his peers, and for 3 decades of work, that 30 years of service that he provided in Nanaimo, largely to the city until his retirement until April of 2025, so just a year he's been retired. And this is the 2026 Heritage BC Lifetime Achievement Award. So he's already in retirement. He's still collecting awards for the work that he's so he's left, obviously, an enduring legacy with the city, and he played a really pivotal role in establishing the and strengthening the city's heritage conservation program and helping to preserve and celebrate Nanaimo's rich cultural history for future generations. So we're very fortunate to have had Chris's service. Chris has also been an inspiration to those working in the field. That's why he's recognized by his peers as well. Of heritage and cultural preservation throughout BC. He's provided leadership, professional expertise and commitment, and mentorship, and significantly advanced heritage planning practices in the province. This is well-deserved recognition and reflects not only his remarkable career, but also profound and lasting impact he's had in the field of heritage conservation. Personally, too, I'll throw in that I recall when I was starting out in a planning profession, rumors of a rock star planner that worked for the city of Nanaimo, and those rumors abounded throughout the island and throughout the province. And I was fortunate enough to come and work with Chris, and the rumors were true. And as well, if you, I always joked, if you looked up planner in the dictionary now on Wikipedia, maybe you'd actually see a picture of Chris. So yeah, with that, I just wanted to say thank you to Chris on behalf of the City of Nanaimo for outstanding service and for helping shape the heritage of our community in a very lasting way. Thank you.
Come on down, Chris. Like the game shows, come on down.
Two camera people today, okay? There'll be a second person. Okay, we'll send it over. Congrats. Oh, no Jeremy this time. Okay.
And the next is the 2024 Canadian Award for Financial Reporting. In a cynical age where people don't believe governments are transparent and are wont to believe the worst, the City of Nanaimo, once again. I'm going to turn it over to Laura Mercer. Ms. Mercer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada has awarded the City of Nanaimo with 2 awards for financial reporting in its annual municipal report and the annual municipal report highlights documents for the fiscal year end December 31st, 2024. And this is the 5th year of the city receiving this award. The first one we received was in 2020. So the Canadian Award for Financial Reporting recognizes excellence in government accounting and financial reporting. And in order to be recognized for the award, the city must publish an easily readable and efficiently organized annual financial report that goes beyond the minimum requirements of generally accepted accounting principles and demonstrates an effort to clearly communicate the city's financial picture, enhance an understanding of financial reporting by the city, and address user needs. The second award is the popular Annual Financial Report Award. So each year the city creates an abbreviated version of the annual municipal report, and it's called the Annual Municipal Highlights Report. And this award recognizes the work put into producing that report. So this is a combination of work from various departments throughout the city, but the lion's share of the work is done by the Finance and Communications Department. And as always, they've done a great job in producing this document, and so a job well done. So I'll ask the Communications and Finance team to come down and have these awards presented.
Please, and congratulations. Oh, yes. No, next week. Ms. Gurry, a question for you. This isn't the last council meeting for somebody, is it?
No, Your Worship.
No.
I think there's one more.
Just checking. Councillor Hemmons was just, keeping tabs on me, making sure, yes. All right, the next is the Hammond Bay Traffic Management presentation. Mr. Hadu, good evening. Chris Mathy, gentlemen, looking forward to this. It's a big project.
Thank you, Worship. Many folks are, I think. We've had many questions about how we were going to approach traffic management. So I'll do a quick introduction and then we'll get into it. So my name is James Hadu. I'm the Manager of Capital Project Delivery for the Regional District of Nanaimo. And next to me is Chris Mathy. He's one of our project engineers and he's the project manager for the Departure Bay Pump Station and Force Main expansion projects. Today we're going to be talking about the traffic management strategy for the Force Main part of the project, the Force Main twinning. We need a second to figure out how to change slides. Got it. Okay, quick background. Okay, so we got a little map here of the Hammond Bay Road area of the project. So the project has three main components. The first is installing a new force main, so twinning the existing force main, essentially underneath Hammond Bay Road, parallel to the existing, from the intersection of Departure Bay Road into Hammond Bay Road, all the way up to the Greater Nanaimo Pollution Control Center near McGuffey Road. Once that new force main is installed and operational, we'll take the existing deteriorating force main out of service and then reline it to extend its life and build the additional capacity. And then parallel to all this, we'll also be renewing and replacing existing City of Nanaimo utilities, water main, storm, and sanitary sewers, as the City of Nanaimo Council approved at $19 million worth of cost sharing to take advantage of the opportunity to do the work at the same time. So to date, we've done some public engagement. We've had a couple of open houses, and we've had lots of engagement on our Get Involved page through Q&A. Three sort of common themes that we've heard. The first is traffic congestion and disruption, questions and concerns around that, and really that's what we're here to talk about today, is our strategy to manage that. The other two themes we've heard that are related are questions and concerns around potential future surface improvements and walking and cycling safety. Now, we're not here to talk about those things today. Our project team, in collaboration with our City of Nanaimo counterparts, are investigating those things. And I'll pass it to Chris Mathy to speak to traffic modeling.
Thank you very much. Please.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. So the RDN engaged the Urban Systems modeling team to do the traffic modeling for this project. Through the execution of that work, there was 7 key considerations that we looked at. In the review of the traffic management systems that we were looking at, we evaluated road safety, emergency services access, and impact travel time as our key components. From the graphic on the screen, the modeling showed that we have 2 peak times throughout the day where we have the largest volume of traffic. We have a 9 a.m. Peak in the morning and then a 4 to 5 p.m. peak in the evening. It's important to note on this graphic, through the modeling, we found that the highest volume of traffic that was coming and going from Hammond Bay area is originating in Hammond Bay and leaving in a southern direction. That'll become important at the end of this. Through the scenarios that we analyzed, we looked at the kind of traditional single-lane alternating traffic methodology with 1 lane closed to facilitate construction, and then traffic controllers managing traffic in the other lane. We also looked at the single-lane unidirectional traffic, where 1 lane would be closed for construction, and then the other lane is closed or is unidirectional for the duration of travel, or the project. For the single-lane alternating traffic flow, we found that it was effective when the volumes are really low and the work zones are short. In order to facilitate the duration of the project and the length of work that we had to do, we looked at multiple segments of 250 meters as kind of the length that we're looking at. With that, we found that there was significant delay associated with that. It was about a 25-minute queue for each of those zones. We also found that if we shortened the zones or decrease the number, that the duration of the project would increase significantly. So we moved into looking at the unidirectional traffic flow model, where there would be the minimal restrictions in one direction. With that minimal restriction, we also have the ability to do counterflow operations for emergency services as well as our other municipal partners. And we evaluated a southbound or clockwise orientation and a counterclockwise northbound orientation. So with the ultimately we decided to go with the unidirectional clockwise flow, and that was backed up by the traffic modeling. It showed that the travel times were shortest in that direction. We saw that the bypass traffic in the areas around the construction area was reduced compared to the counterclockwise flow, and that we, while executing the work, we decided that it would be beneficial to have the bidirectional traffic in the areas where we're not working. So in the first graphic, there was the work broken up into a bunch of segments. Each segment is going to be executed at a different time, but as we complete those segments, bidirectional traffic will be allowed to resume there. So we'll start at the north end and work our way south. In that vein, we would be looking at the first 2 years approximately of the northern portion being closed to traffic in one direction and then moving south from there. Just to illustrate kind of the timing around travel in the area while we're in the unidirectional traffic flow. On the top of the graphic, there's a point A, that's at the Greater Nanaimo Pollution Control Center, and B is at the Hammond Bay Departure Bay intersection. Currently, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes to travel that corridor in either direction, north or south. With the unidirectional, we would be looking at an increase in that duration by about 5 minutes, and that's the southern direction. We would see that increase of 5 minutes as a result of reduced speeds for construction safety. Because we can't go northbound in that corridor, you'd be looking at a bypass route that goes along Departure Bay Road up to Uplands and across to Rutherford. And we would see an increase in travel of about 15 minutes there. In the modeling, we've also had discussions with our municipal partners that included the Nanaimo Fire Rescue, BC Ambulance, and RCMP for the Emergency Services Group. We intend, and we are working with them to develop a communications protocol to be able to work with their dispatch and our traffic controllers to halt traffic in the other direction should a fire truck or ambulance need to go counterflow during working hours. Historically, we've seen 1 to 2 incidents daily, which we received from the fire services folks. We've also had discussions with SD68. They are still evaluating options about how they can modify routes and make it work for them. We have investigated a counterflow operation for school buses as well in special consideration or in special conditions. We are also working with BC Transit and RDN Transit to evaluate how we can make it work. The Route 20 and 20A northbound route will be most impacted. In order to facilitate smooth transfer of people for the school children that are going north to Dover, we are planning on having 2 counterflow buses that will be first thing in the morning, and then that route there'll be an additional route that detours for the remainder of the day. And I'll hand it over to you, James.
Thank you. So in the southbound traffic unidirectional scenario that we are recommending, northbound traffic will be detoured, as Chris mentioned, along Departure Bay and Uplands and Rutherford to get back up to the north side of north portion of Hammond Bay Road. So to accommodate the increased traffic along that route, we need to make some traffic improvements. So there's a few types of traffic improvements here that have been identified. There are 2 locations flagged in purple on the map where major intersection improvements are required. Now this could be temporary lights, it could be temporary roundabouts, it could be a permanent solution that sort of overlaps with potential city plans. We're still working through the details of that. We're working with our city and Nanaimo counterparts into the details of what it looks like. The orange are existing crosswalks that will require some pedestrian improvements, flashing lights or some other improvement to help stop traffic to allow the pedestrians to continue using those crosswalks. The blue is a simple signal modification, which is light timing. And the green is an area where we've identified the need for additional traffic calming in neighborhoods impacted by that bypass traffic. And this will generally look like stop signs and speed humps and that sort of thing. Thanks. So this is a quick image of the two intersections where major intersection improvements are required to accommodate the additional traffic. And the root of that is that there are stop signs currently, and people entering the major road from the side road might have difficulty getting, finding space in with the increased traffic. So those two intersections are Uplands and Departure Bay, and Rutherford and Vandernook. A couple images of two crosswalks that will need pedestrian improvements. And the shaded area here, Stevenson Point, and sort of that I want to say Gulf View, but I don't think it's Gulf View area. That's an area that's been flagged as needing neighborhood traffic calming, again, stop signs, speed humps, that sort of deal, to deal with potential vehicles using those side streets to try to bypass parts of the construction. And then one thing that we wanted to flag here was Gulfview Drive, Sundown Drive. Now, we've heard a fair bit through all of our public engagement on folks volunteering opinions for or against this, despite us not having mentioned it at all. And we did have our traffic modelers review it. And so the modeling showed that opening this creates a small reduction in traffic in the bypass routes. That said, we don't see it as a high value item, and we are recommending to leave it closed at this time and to monitor it, that in the future, if it goes from a low value item to a relatively high value item, we might then come back to the City Nanaimo Council with a recommendation to open it. But at the moment, our recommendation is to leave it as it is closed.
Councillor Perino has a question.
Thank you, Your Worship. Question through you. So regarding the Gulfview, I was surprised to see that you're intending to leave it as it is. What about for emergency vehicles? No? Not needed?
Through you, Worship, emergency vehicles, their access is going to be similar to what it is now. I'm not sure, I can't speak to right now if there's anything in place to open access if an emergency vehicle needs it, but effectively how we're managing emergency vehicle access is to make sure traffic has stopped to allow them the same access that they have now.
Okay. I was surprised to see this one. I thought for sure you'd be opening up that area, but you know better, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Please.
Take it away.
Okay, so for the schedule for these works, the proactive traffic improvements that we were just discussing, we intend to do them this summer, so starting in Q3 2026. At the same time as we're doing those improvements, we have some ground investigations that will happen on Hammond Bay Road. We intend to do a single lane alternating traffic model for that, but in a very small area, so it'll be much shorter work zones, and there'll only be one of them. Later into the year, we intend to start construction on some water main improvements that are adjacent in at the end in segment I, and we intend to start that using the single lane alternating method. Again, that'll be short work zones and only one of them. And then we intend to implement the unidirectional traffic pattern starting in Q1 of 2027. The total duration of construction is 4 years. It's to the end of this year to the beginning of 2031. You, James.
Thanks. Now a quick plug on engagement. So for folks watching and who are located in and around the Hammond Bay area, expect periodic mailed newsletter updates. And for everyone else, expect to see road signage, advertising. You might see us at pop-up booths and at public events. And we've always got our RDN Get Involved page updated on this. We've got it monitored. We've got a link at the bottom of this slide and a QR code that'll both take you to the website. And that's our main source of information that's kept live and up to date. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a couple of questions. Councillor Armstrong and then Councillor Thorpe, please.
Thank you. 2 questions through you. I appreciate you're doing the RDN Get Involved updates. Is it possible to also have that information sent to the city so it can go on the city Get Involved Nanaimo? Because a lot of people wouldn't think to look at the RDN. Just one thing. I'll look to Ms. Gurry.
Through your worship, I can answer that question. We are working with Dale at the city to make sure that we have coordination between two groups. So the city Get Involved page points to the RDN Get Involved page.
And the other thing I would just suggest too is that because we have strong neighborhood associations in that area, that updates go to the neighborhood associations as well, so then they can share it with their members. Thank you.
Yes, and we are working closely with them as well.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe, and then Councillor Perino.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, through you, if I may. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming tonight. Very interesting. And I recognize that this is a huge project and a very necessary project with huge challenges. So appreciate the thought you've put into this. And I know that you are going to address walking and cycling safety separately. But in terms of your first step, the traffic modeling, I just want to make sure that I understand this correctly. Using the, what was it, unilateral, undirectional clockwise flow. Basically, you're turning Hammond Bay into a one-way street for the most part. So if a parent wanted to drive and drop off a student at Hammond Bay Elementary, they would have to approach it from the north end and then circle down toward Departure Bay. And the same picking up. So it's just that, it's a one-way loop, is that correct? Except for emergency vehicles or the odd exception.
Thank you, and through you, Worship. In principle, yes. That said, the construction will kind of move from north to south, and that unidirectional traffic flow really will be only applied at the active construction work zones.
Okay.
So that scenario will, the exact scenario will sort of change depending on where someone lives along Hammond Bay and where the progress of the construction is. The worst case, I would say from a time perspective, is right near the beginning, because we're planning to construct from north to south. So if someone lives generally pretty north and they want to drive to, a part of Hammond Bay Road that's north of that, they'll need to loop all the way around.
Right. Okay. No, I appreciate that. Just wanted to make sure I understood. And I'm sure many people will be frustrated and not happy with that, but I hope they understand that, as I said before, this is a very necessary project, and in the long term, it will be worth it. Thank you.
Speaking as someone who lives in Departure Bay, the concept of having a toilet that I can safely flush for 4 years is very important to me. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. Another question, if I might. In reference to the public engagement that you did on the walking and the cycling safety, I'm just wondering that one of the particularly bad areas is down by Departure Bay going towards, especially as you go around that corner. And I'm just wondering, when are you going to make decisions about what you're able to do as far as pedestrian walkways and or bike lanes? Any idea about the timing on that one?
Okay. Through your worship to Councillor Perino.
Yes.
So right now we've got some concepts kind of in an early stage. We've got a little bit more work to do before we take them to the neighborhood associations.
Okay.
And we plan to do that this summer and then come back to council this fall with more information on those, and then kind of have an ability to have a public conversation about what that looks like.
Yeah, what could be done, costs and so forth, and timelines and that kind of thing?
Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any further questions. Gentlemen, thank you very much. It's, I think tonight you've pointed out to the public who've been watching or listening, just from a high-level perspective, how complex it is to manage a construction project over this many meters and period of time. So well done, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Worship.
Thank you.
Now, just a small reminder that why I made an exception for clapping and encouragement during the previous presentations. We're back to the old stiff rules here. The next item, committee minutes, just for receipt. I'd ask under item 10, a motion for adoption of the consent items. Moved Councillor Manley, seconded Councillor Thorpe. Anyone want anything removed? Seeing none, all those in favor, and any opposed, none, motion carries. Thank you. Next, we're on to delegations. Holden Southward, Food Security Nanaimo. Mr. Southward, please. I think you know the drill. Introduce yourself for the record. 5 minutes. When there's a minute left, I'll let you know. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Holden Southward. I'm from the Nanaimo, and I have discussed this in a past delegation about becoming self-reliant, self-owned, self-determined as much as we can in the NIMO. Now, this one here is more, well, it's a scenario what we hopefully don't want to happen. So it's like we live under one destiny, but hopefully this is just a shadow. Anyway, just because of the geopolitics and we're actually in quite a bit of danger because there's a lot of people who are just not qualified to be running the world. So anyway, the threat of a World War III and of a financial threat 4 times worse than the Great Depression proves that IMO must make emergency actions to ensure malnutrition is not so severe. With the passageway of the Strait of Hormuz being halted or slowed, we are being reminded how dependent we are on oil, whether it is for transportation, running farm machinery, or for fertilizer. 20% of the world's oil passed through the Strait of Hormuz. If this stalemate between the U.S. and Iran continues without a peace deal, we could soon be paying $4 a liter for gasoline. Airlines could go out of business, and tourism to Vancouver Island could largely be extinct. Food shortages and huge prices increase for it will be inevitable. Until a safe nuclear fission reactors are common, or even Nikola Tesla's free energy ether engine is no longer suppressed, nothing can replace oil for the long term. India is considered a friend of Iran, and if not, it could face mass starvation since they depend on fertilizers and fuel from the Persian Gulf. 50% of their needs come from there. Our money's value is pegged to the US dollar, and the US national debt is almost $40 trillion, and they are losing the reserve currency status very quick. The globalists who created the problem to initiate the civil war in Ukraine are deeply involved, not interested in peace, and are fighting the Russians to the very last Ukrainian. This is a proxy war against Russia by the Western elite manipulators, and 1.5 million Ukrainian servicemen have died, and it will continue as long as the cash fills the right pockets. This could lead to nuclear war. As I said in recent delegations, we must, for our municipality, order and fill up huge grain and oat silos for backup food sources. Many other sources could be stored and used in rotation so the food don't expire. More dairy, sheep, pig, and goat farms must follow. One danger for the local population, besides a potential Mad Max scenario in a great war and financial collapse, is our own governments could cannibalize the local citizens. In a situation where there is 40% unemployment, most won't be able to afford their taxes and be forced to defer their taxes at high interest rates. To feed the beast, the federal government could impose a $30,000 emergency mortgage on all private real estate backed by the world bankers. If one has no job, they have no home anymore, as the bankers will take ownership. But have no fear, as the World Economic Forum states, you will own nothing and be happy. In these conditions, the street people will be more likely to commit serious crimes in order to get arrested and get 3 meals a day and a roof over their head. Hell will be seeing teenage girls selling their bodies for a bag of food. In the end, the only comforting
1
thing
minute,
is
Mr.
that
Southward.
what? Well, is that hybrid inflation almost everyone is reduced to the same level. Whether one has $5 or $5,000, it still does not buy a loaf of bread. This means instead of making hundreds of thousands homeless, we will have to organize a synergy without the need for money. Countries like China could do it, but of course they are much more communal and homogenous. Becoming self-reliant, self-determined, and self-owned as much as possible is more important than ever for our children and the planet. The real evil globalist puppet masters want to own everything, including our mind and children. They are extremely influential in the educational system, the media, entertainment industry, and use outright intimidation. The globalist follows Hitler's and Joseph Goebbels' playbook. Give me a child for 10 years and I will change society. Adolf Hitler.
Thank you, Mr. Southwood. Your time is up. Appreciate it.
Okay. So hopefully it didn't scare anybody too much.
I'm not
But,
seeing any
it's-
questions.
Any questions?
No. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next is 12, Administrative Reports, 2026 State of the Nanaimo Economy. Ms. Manhas, welcome. And might I say, that's a pretty impressive report, Ms. Manhas. Well done.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Thanks for the opportunity to present the 2026 State of the Economy report. And you've received the full report. This evening, I'm just going to touch on some key themes, looking at what's changed, what stayed the same, and what we're looking at in terms of moving ahead. At a very high level, 2025 was a year of stabilization rather than recovery. Population growth and in-migration remained the primary drivers, while affordability pressures continued to shape housing, labor, and business conditions. Housing activity rebalanced after prior volatility. The labor market looked stable on the surface, but was tighter underneath. Public and institutional projects led capital investment, helping offset some of the softer private sector construction. The business base continued to grow, though scaling remains a challenge. Population continues to grow, but at a slower pace than what we've seen over the last 5 years. And this is partly due to broader provincial and federal policy changes around immigration. Growth has slowed from 10% over the last 5 years to about 8% over the coming next 5 years. So around 1.6% annually is what we're looking at. Interprovincial migration remains a key contributor to our population base. Over 30,000 residents in Nanaimo in 2025 had moved here from other provinces. And 52% of our population has moved here from other parts of British Columbia. The working age population continues to grow, but the 65-plus population is growing faster. As a result, over the next 5 years, we're going to see the working age share decline slightly from where it is right now, and the senior share increase slightly. Children, as a proportion of the population, will remain relatively similar to what it is right now. We're also seeing ethnic, linguistic, and cultural diversity continue to expand in Nanaimo. Strong growth among South Asian, Chinese, Filipino, Black, and Southeast Asian communities. Visible minorities make up about 14.3% of our population in 2025. That'll inch up to about 16% by 2030, which reinforces the need for multilingual outreach as well as inclusive service delivery. We're seeing growth at sort of both ends of the age spectrum, so seniors along with working age residents moving here. That creates dual pressure, so need to support jobs and workforce needs while at the same time planning for age related services as well. Workforce pressures may increase as the number of people that are reaching retirement age grows faster than working age population. Our dependency ratio is rising a little bit from 60.7 to 62.5 by 2030. So that's about 63 dependents for every 100 workers. As a comparison, BC is around 50.7%, so about 51 instead of 63 like we have, but we have an older population than BC, so that's expected. A replacement demand will increase across sectors as more workers retire. Some of it is going to be definitely made up through technology adoption as well. But it does put greater focus on workforce attraction and retention, upskilling and productivity improvements, as well as succession planning. Household growth continues from 46,620 in 2025 to 50,369 by 2030. That's about 8% increase over the next 5 years. One-family households remain the largest group. But the fastest growth in terms of its subcategories, we're seeing growth in single-person households, particularly seniors that are living alone. This increases demand for accessible, senior-friendly housing close to healthcare, transit, and services, all of those kinds of things that we are taking care of through planning. Average household size is expected to increase a little bit too, from 2.3 to 2.4. More adults aged 25 plus are living at home longer. These shifts, of course, will affect housing type, accessibility, and location, not just the total number of units that are built. So much of Nanaimo's housing stock is also aging. 38% was built before 1980, and that creates both challenges around maintenance, energy efficiency, and climate resiliency, as well as opportunities, of course. Older homes will need retrofits, renewals, and in some cases, redevelopment to meet modern needs. There's a gradual shift underway in Nanaimo's housing stock. So housing mix and tenure is being shaped by the population growth we've seen. Rental housing is growing faster than ownership, with the rental share increasing from 34% in 2025 to 35% by 2030. New housing is increasing, increasingly apartments, duplexes, and other forms of missing middle types of developments. Single detached homes still make up the majority, of course, based on what we built previously as well, or historically. But this share is declining as multi-unit housing grows. This reflects longer-term forces, including land constraints, affordability pressures, as well as changing household needs. These shifts are typical of a growing urban city like Nanaimo. Development activity rebounded in 2025 from what we had in 2024. It was largely driven by public investment, though. It increased to $387 million. That's an increase of 90% from 2024. Public and institutional projects made up 59% of the total value, helping offset some private residential and commercial construction that was a bit weaker in 2025. Housing starts increased to 676 units, and 39% of that was tied to the student housing at VIU. While residential activity was softer in 2025, but we're seeing much more units come to the market this year. The TELUS building on Wallace Street, for instance, is coming on board this year, as well as the building on Campbell Street. So that's 195 units with the TELUS building and 162 units for the Campbell Street building. Both are rental buildings, so that's excellent to see. As well, we're seeing uptick in residential permit activity this year as well. We've already issued building permits for 2 major projects. One of them is on Watfield, 171 units that are being built there, and 86 units on Turner Road as well. So development continues to shift towards multi-unit and smaller formats. And really, interest rates, construction costs, and project feasibility remain the key short-term constraints rather than demand for construction. Looking at the real estate market, it's moved into more balanced conditions in 2025. Inventory has improved, prices have stabilized, and activity is healthier than what we saw during the pandemic. However, conditions will still vary by housing type, and affordability continues to limit who can enter the market. Rental supply increased in 2025 across all unit types, but demand absorbed it pretty quickly. As a result, vacancy tightened from 2.9% to 2.2%, and rents increased across most unit types. Many new units are priced beyond what average households can afford. So the key takeaway here is supply does help overall, but affordability still remains a challenge. Nanaimo's labor force grew by 1.5% in 2025, and over the 5-year average, 1.5% is our average growth for labor force. Most labor force growth in Nanaimo was population-driven. Just modest gains came from participation increase. This contrasts with Vancouver Island, where growth was more participation-driven. Labor market conditions softened in late 2025, with unemployment rising to 7.3%. That's reflection of the broader economic cooling that's going on. So we saw higher unemployment rates on Vancouver Island as well as BC as well as Canada. Jobs, if we look at job postings, they declined by less than 1%, so minus 0.8% compared to 2024. This is Nanaimo's employment structure. So looking at it compared to British Columbia, our strengths are in healthcare, trades, and applied technical fields, retail, sales, and service occupations. There are gaps in higher value export-oriented sectors. That includes professional and business services, technology and IT-related fields, advanced manufacturing, advanced industries, including manufacturing. So lower representation in these sectors, of course, limits wage growth, management capacity, as well as long-term resilience. So addressing gaps and fostering growth in these sectors would definitely be beneficial for Nanaimo. In terms of threats, retail, service, jobs also become more vulnerable during downturns. There's just less spending, and that reinforces the need for further diversification. We're not really seeing that here, but those would be our vulnerabilities. Income trends. So household incomes in Nanaimo are rising. They're rising both in terms of nominal income as well as real income. So real income is basically inflation adjusted. So what you see in this year's report is it's adjusted for inflation. Last year's was nominal terms. The share of higher income households in Nanaimo is increasing, while the low income share is declining. Despite this progress, growth is not being felt evenly. Lower income households, especially people that are like service workers or on fixed incomes, they would of course face growing affordability pressures. Nanaimo still lags behind British Columbia's average in terms of income. And so what we're seeing really in terms of income is we have rising prosperity alongside ongoing affordability challenges. Nanaimo's living wage reached $24.40 in 2025. That's an increase of 2.6% year over year. Across Vancouver Island, it ranged from $22.60 to $27.40, so we're somewhere in the middle of that. Cost pressures are mainly driven by housing and food expenses mostly. The gap between the living wage and minimum wage continues to widen, and in 2025 for Nanaimo it was $6.55 per hour. While Nanaimo remains more affordable than larger cities, housing costs are still outpacing income growth. Tourism. Tourism had a solid year in 2025. Visitor spending reached over $371 million. That's an increase of 2.5% year over year. Hotel performance improved across all key metrics. That includes occupancy, room rate, as well as revenue available per room. As well, meetings and events nearly doubled their economic impact. Ferry and fast ferry traffic continued to grow, reinforcing Nanaimo's role as a central island hub. Tourism remains an important driver of jobs, resilience, and downtown activity, particularly as they're growing shoulder season as well as midweek visits. So that's great to see. And in concluding, what this means in terms of planning and economic development priorities, we need to continue to expand housing diversity and affordability, support workforce attraction and retention. That means programs for workforce development, succession planning, mentorship, etc. Diversify the economy, especially into higher wage sectors. So attracting mid-size and larger employers would improve job diversity, wage depth, and management capacity. We have we also need to support small business resilience as well. 36% of our businesses are home-based. Majority of them are locally owned and operated. And so we need to augment that with some mid to larger size firms. And aligning infrastructure for simultaneous growth in working age as well as senior population. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I'm happy to answer if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Through you, if I can kick things off, I'd appreciate it. Ms. Manhas, thank you very much for the report. I enjoyed reading it, and I found it quite readable and extremely interesting. Thank you for your good work. In my opinion, economic development is just so crucial to the success of our city and its growth. A couple of things jumped out at me in the section on economic diversity, where under key areas where Nanaimo and BC differ, there were some where we're way ahead of the provincial, I'll call it average, and there's some where we're lagging behind. And one of the main ones is in the manufacturing sector. And you identify that Nanaimo has fewer large-scale production facilities. In your opinion, does that relate to our relative lack of industrial land?
Yes, it could. I think NPC is doing a study on that, so we'll find out a little bit more on that for sure. I think there's a direct correlation, as well as the skills of our workforce is also important. So in order to make sure that we attract those types of larger firms, we got to have the labor force that's ready to be able to work in those types of facilities. So I see a direct correlation. When we look at our education levels, the education levels that our population has strongly correlate to the kind of occupations that they're in. So I think there are certain gaps that we need to work on in terms of workforce skills, like we have a lower representation in STEM or university educated workforce compared to the BC average. And we sort of see that in the occupations that are being, that people are employed in here as well.
All right, fair enough. Thank you very much. And certainly Nanaimo's position as a central island hub means we are located ideally to take advantage of some of the facilities that could be here and the advantages that we would bring. And I know the Nanaimo Prosperity Corporation is interested in pursuing that as well. The second area, if I may, Your Worship, that really interested me was in the tourism, where we are performing very strongly. You mentioned hotel rates up 6.8%, I believe. And I would just like to know, will you be sharing this information with our tourism board? I know they would love to see it.
It actually really comes from them. I'm happy to talk to them, but yes, these are tourism indicators that I look at every single year, and there's been, you know, really great performance this year. Like I say, particularly growing the season, like outside the summer season, growing the shoulder season more is fantastic. Also seeing more diversity in the types of visitors that are coming to our community, that's fantastic, because it's, again, diversification.
And more conferences here at this facility, more sports tourism as people recognize what great facilities we have. And maybe before too long, if our population continues to grow and the success continues, we'll be looking at the need for another downtown hotel, but I guess time will tell.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Thorpe. I would encourage anyone who's watching or listening tonight or has friends who are interested in economic development, the report is available on the city website. Ms. Manhas, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Yes,
will be
everyone
uploaded
should, everyone
to
should
the
take
city's
a look.
website. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Much appreciate the work. Well done. The next is the Respectful Spaces Amendment Bylaw 7381.02. Ms. Gurry, please.
Thank you, Worship. The report is also part of this agenda, which is published online as well under the council meetings page. So for now, if it's not on its own unique location, folks can find the report there. And on to the report that you're speaking of. I'm here to present a housekeeping amendment to the Respectful Spaces Bylaw 2024, number 7381. And this amendment is here to better clarify the intent of posting codes of conduct in municipal facilities. So for some background on this, Your Worship, since the implementation of the Respectful Spaces bylaw in July of 2025, there has been some confusion by members of the public as it relates to whether they can take photographs or record videos of birds, animals, friends, and family in parks and trails as it relates to the public code of conduct. To better understand what's prohibited, you would have to first look at the definitions outlined in our bylaw, and then you would look under the inappropriate behavior. And where it states in there, it says, in order to prohibit the use of electronic device, one has to define what that prohibited use would be. That is done through a posted public code of conduct. As there is no public code of conduct signs posted in municipal parks and trails stating that electronic devices are prohibited, that portion of the definition does not apply when it comes to taking photos and videos. So to better clarify the intent of the bylaw, a new provision has been added in section 5.4, which is under the scope in the bylaw, and it's to clarify that the city may post a public code of conduct in a municipal facility that sets out rules, rights, and responsibilities of patrons or members of the public with respect to use of the facilities and equipment, inappropriate behavior, and the use of electronic devices to take photographs or record videos. Other behaviors within the definition, such as abuse of language, harassment, vandalism, and violence, are already defined within the bylaw, along with the requirements of respectful behavior as outlined in sections 6.2 and 6.3 of the bylaw. So the prohibition of these behaviors would be universal in all municipal facilities, including parks and trails, regardless of whether they are posted on a public code of conduct or not. So again, it's already noted in the definitions. We are adding under the scope to make it more clear that you can take photographs, videos, etc. in all of the parks, trails, unless for some reason specified there was a posted code of conduct that said that it was not allowed, and it would state the provision and what the bylaw, but you can do this. It's been a misunderstanding that we're just here to rectify and make very clear.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gurry. Councillor Armstrong has a question.
Thank you. Appreciate that clarification. And just so I'm clear, it's the council procedure bylaw that deals with the electronic recordings at a council meeting. It's not the Respectful Workplaces bylaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Armstrong, you're absolutely correct. The council procedure bylaw deals with what the prohibitions and or the appropriate behavior in a council meeting, not the Respectful Spaces bylaw.
Thank you. Appreciate that clarification.
Thank you very much. Not seeing any further questions. Councillor Hemmons?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Just keep flipping.
Thank you. Forgive me, Your Worship, I didn't realize it was a bylaw. So I would move that Respectful Spaces Amendment Bylaw 2026, number 7381.02, a housekeeping amendment to clarify the intent of posting codes of conduct in municipal facilities, pass first reading.
Seconded, Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor? Any opposed? None?
Move that the bylaw pass second reading.
Seconded, Councillor Armstrong. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor?
Move to, that the bylaw passes third reading, please.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much. The next is Municipal Security Issuing Resolution, Public Works Yard Updates, Borrowing Bylaw 2026, number 7450. Ms. Gurry, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this report is to seek Council's approval for borrowing $10.57 million from the Municipal Finance Authority, MFA, for Phase 1 of the Public Work Yard Update Project, which was previously approved by Council. And this is through the adoption of a Public Works Yard Update Borrowing Bylaw that was done on March 23rd, 2026. So just a little bit of background. At the March 3rd, 2026 Council meeting, Council adopted the Public Work Yards Update Borrowing Bylaw to authorize the borrowing of $76,680,000 for the construction of a fleet maintenance building, crew and administration building, relocation of existing operational facilities, and site servicing. The Inspector of Municipalities provided their statutory approval on May 5th, 2025, which is attachment A to this report. And to avoid paying interest on money that is not needed immediately, the MFA has a process in place through the passing of a security issuing resolution, which is what's before you here tonight, whereby municipalities can take draws as needed on the amount approved under the bylaw. So the projected funding requirement for phase 1 of the project is 10.57 million, and it's to be borrowed through MFA's fall borrowing opportunity. And the report outlines what the funds would be used for. And happy to answer any questions, or Ms. Mercer is here, and I believe we have staff as well here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gurry. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship, and just a comment and a question. I think this is an excellent idea. We don't need to borrow the full amount right now. So this small portion that we are going for today, how soon do you think we'll have to go for the next, hopefully, small portion?
Through your worship, to Councillor Perino. So we would look at doing this once a year. So next fall, we would go for the borrowing again. It would come in the spring, but with the fall, it would be a fall borrowing.
Is a second question, if I may, Your Worship. Is there a danger that we could be refused?
No,
Wonderful.
because we've already been approved for the borrow.
Because
These
we've
are
been-
just draws on the amount we're allowed to borrow.
And we don't pay any interest until we've actually borrowed the money.
Yes.
Excellent. First time I've ever seen it done. Well done. Just a great plan. And I'll put the motion on the floor if you wish, Your Worship.
Certainly. Seconded Councillor Himmons, then Councillor Thorpe wishes to speak to it.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I absolutely support this, but I did have a question through you, Your Worship, to Ms. Mercer, and that is, how will this borrowing amount affect our future ability to borrow from the Finance Authority?
Through your worship. So this, for our borrowing limit, it looks at the total amount we've been allowed to borrow. So 76 million. That's already taken into account because we've been approved for that. So that is, when they calculate how much room we have left, that is, they've already taken into account the full amount.
So we have lots of room left.
We do have lots of room left.
That's great to know. Thank you very much.
Just to clarify, Your Worship, it's 76,680,000 was like the up to amount that the bylaw of the total approved amount.
Very good. Motions on the floor. Any further discussion, questions? Not seeing any. All those in favor and any opposed? Councillors Brown and Eastmere, you're in favor? Or Councillor?
I'm opposed.
You're
I'm opposed,
opposed,
Your
and
Worship.
Councillor Eastmere?
Voted in favor.
Favor, thank you. The next is Woodgrove Area Plan. Mr. Holm, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just say a couple words, and then I'll turn it over to Kasia Began, a planner too that's working on this project, managing this project, that to give you some details. This is a first area plan that is being brought before council since the adoption of City Plan, the official community plan. Part of the intention through the adoption of City Plan, the official community plan, is to focus on priority growth areas, to identify constraints and opportunities, and develop a policy framework to support growth within the intended growth areas, and in this case, the Woodgrove Urban Center. I'll turn it over to Ms. Began, and as well Lisa Brinkman, Manager of Community Planning, is here. They're the leads on this project, and happy to take questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Ms. Began, Ms. Brinkman, good evening, welcome, please.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm going to keep it short because I think I might be losing my voice. So we'll move along quickly here. So I'm here to present the final phase of the Woodgrove Area Plan project. This has been a year and a half in the making. And as a reminder, the purpose of it, as Mr. Holm just mentioned, is to do some bit more detailed work in terms of how we want to achieve a complete community within the Woodgrove Secondary Urban Center, which is shown here on your screen. So in terms of the process and the outcomes to date, we are currently in the final phase, which is the preparation of the draft Woodgrove Area Plan. And the first three phases, which were part of a complete communities assessment, have helped to inform this final phase. and we've had engagement throughout each phase of this project. So in terms of phase 3, I'm going to present on that first. This is the final phase of engagement that we had. We had 683 people directly engaged in phase 3. And of note, we had 368 people engaged for the first time in this project. And I think that's because we went out and did flyers. We really tried to get the residents and the businesses to provide their feedback because they're going to be the most impacted by this area plan. We had 91% Nanaimo residents, mostly employed and homeowners, and people aged 20 to 65 years old. And we did that through surveys, digital workshops, and we did quite a bit of engagement through outreach tools, as you see here, which we did in all 3 phases. So what did we hear? We heard strong support in terms of the policy direction for shops and services close to home, parks, recreation, and culture amenities, improved transit and active transportation, walkable mixed-use public spaces, and diverse housing options. In terms of questions and concerns we also heard through the feedback was building heights, anything over 6 stories, as well as density, which is directed through city plan policy, traffic impacts, congestion and parking, transit exchange relocation, more desire for information about what that means, competition with downtown, and lastly, use and access of private parks. So with that information and with phase 1 and 2 feedback, we've now drafted a Woodgrove area plan. So I'm just going to give you a very high-level overview of how it's drafted. It's a bit of a new approach for the area plans, and hopefully this template will move forward to the next area plan. But generally the intent is for it to be concise, not repetitive with city plan policies, and be visual so it shows through photographs the overall vision of what we're trying to achieve. And so we have an introduction section that talks about the context of how we got here, and then the vision of a complete community. We have a section 2, which talks about the plan and process that led to the preparation of this plan. We then have section 3, which is the bulk of it, the policies, and those are based on the complete community's assessments, lenses that we looked at, plus we added the natural environment, because that obviously is very critical and lacking within the Woodgrove Urban Center. So we have policies on the natural environment, housing, transportation, access to daily needs, and infrastructure. We also have mapping that you can see examples of here on the screen, and the intent is that the information is to be incorporated into city plan. So it's one cohesive look at how everything is connected. Then we have section 4, which is funding mechanisms. So I did present on this a while back. This is also a new approach for area plans, and this is where we're going to fund all of the needs identified for the Woodgrove area. And then lastly, we have an implementation section. So we have actions that will need to be taken to help realize the Woodgrove area plan, as well as some monitoring targets that we've set in place to see, are we getting closer to achieving that complete community over the next 25 years? So overall, we had over 25,000 people, 2,500 people directly engaged, it's a bit of a jump there, through the entire project. I'm really proud of the community engagement that we had. We really went out to Woodgrove area residents, businesses, and property owners. We engaged with the Dover Community Association, McGurr and Pleasant Valley Elementary School students, which was really lovely, Snuneymuxw First Nations, as well as government agencies throughout each phase. One critical piece, however, to the delivery of the Woodgrove area plan and staff's recommendation is the implementation of a new master development plan policy. And the reason being is that we have quite a few large sites. There's 5 large sites within the Woodgrove Urban Center that we believe require a bit more detail in terms of how they're going to be developed over time, likely because they're going to be developed probably in small portions. And so we're looking at something similar to what we saw with the Bowers District Master Plan that looks at more detailed information around the transportation network, the housing, infrastructure. And the intent is that it apply to parcels with a future land use designation of primary, secondary urban center, that the parcel be a minimum of 2.5 hectares or larger, and it either may be applied at time of rezoning, subdivision, or development permit. So I do want to flag that it is an error on the slide. We are not going to be applying it to land use covenant amendments. And as a result of that, we are recommending to support this policy an amendment to the official community plan, which is city plan, as well as a development approval information bylaw, because there's different mechanisms in order to be able to use this at different times of development permits. So that is the recommendation for staff. In terms of next steps, we're asking council to consider first and second reading of the city plan amendment bylaw, which is really the incorporation of the Woodgrove area plan to form part of city plan. Looking at the referral of that amendment bylaw to other agencies, as well as holding a public hearing for both the city plan amendment bylaw and the zoning bylaw amendment. And then we're also looking at first, second, and third reading of the development approval information bylaw to support the master development plan policy, as well as endorsement of that policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, and thank you very much for including OCP in there. It's greatly appreciated. My question is, did you consult with Snanas First Nation as they have territories in that area?
Do you want to answer? During the preparation of city plan, actually, maybe you should better answer this one. You have better memory.
Ms. Brinkman.
Yeah, through the preparation of city plan, they were consulted, and no, we haven't reached out specifically to them as part of the Woodgrove area plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for staff? Councillor Himmons, please.
Thank you. I move that City Plan Amendment Bylaw 2026, number 6600.003, Woodgrove Area Plan, pass first reading.
Seconded, Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor and those opposed, Councillor Brown. Motion carries. Councillor Himmons.
I'm in favor, Your Worship.
Oh, sorry. A little slow off the mark.
You or me?
No, you. Everyone else had their hand up. Councillor Himmons.
I'll move that the bylaw pass second reading.
Seconded, Councillor Perino. Any discussion? All those in favor? And any opposed? None. Motion carries. Councillor Himmons.
Thank you. I move that council direct staff to refer City Plan Amendment 2026 bylaw number 6600.003 to the Ministry of Transportation and Transit, Snuneymuxw First Nation, District of Lanceville, and the Regional District of Nanaimo.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. Councillor Armstrong.
I'm just wondering, because I do know that there's overlapping claims if Snanaw should be included in that, for the simple fact they may not want to be, but they do have some territories, I believe, up in this area.
Sorry, just through the chair to Councillor Armstrong. It was my understanding that through city plan, Satnawis, thank you, gave land use decisions to Snuneymuxw First Nations. And so that direction was continued on with the Woodgrove area plan.
Okay, that's so long as that's been covered. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor? And those opposed?
Your Worship, I have my hand up, Your Worship.
Sorry.
No problem. Yeah, I do want a little bit more information actually on the Snanawas thing. Land use decisions and under the current paradigm rest with the city. So I'd just be looking for some clarity there that why we aren't, although we adopted city plan, this is an amendment to the city plan. So I'm just curious, why we would refrain from also sending this to Snanawas.
Your Worship, if I might jump in.
Ms. Bopal Singh, please.
Hi. This takes us back a little while. So through Your Worship to Council, we received formal correspondence from Snanawas saying that they would defer decisions around land use within the city to Snuneymuxw. And so that was during city plan that we received that confirmation.
Okay, thank you for that. To be honest, I don't feel totally comfortable just because I know that things can change, things can evolve, and it has been several years. And At the time, I understand maybe the wisdom and the check-in of that. I'm just curious when our last check-in on that was, and in particular with respect to this amendment, which is within their traditional territory, but also very close to the reserve lands.
Through your worship to council, we can reconfirm that with Snuneymuxw and Snout-Now-West. We left the two nations to decide how they wished for us to proceed. So if that's something that council would like to see, we can do that.
Would you, through your worship, would staff just require up a follow-up motion to confirm that?
I was looking at the current amendment and wondering, I mean, there's nothing to stop us from sending it to them.
Yes, we should.
So I don't know that a motion's necessary. I think staff have heard counsel. Ms. Gurry?
Your worship, I would prefer a motion just so that we know that it was council direction. So you could amend the current motion that's on the floor to include Snanaas, as well as, like, after Snuneymuxw in the motion, to refer and/or a separate motion.
To amend makes the most sense. Moved, Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you. Yes, I think
That's
it's
now
important. Because there's new leadership there, so, you know, it's just like, I don't want to rely on that. They may continue to defer to SNAMO, and that's great. At least they were consulted. Thank you.
And seconded by Councillor Hemmons. Any further discussion? All those in favor and any opposed? None. Back on the motion
Yeah, the main motion is amended, your worship. Yeah.
as amended. All those in favor and any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. Councillor Hemmons. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. I move that following the referral process, council direct staff to hold a public hearing for City Plan Amendment 2026, bylaw number 6600.003.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. On to zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 2026, number 4500.254. Councillor Hemmons.
Thank you. I move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2026, number 4500.254, Woodgrove Area Plan, pass first reading.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries.
I move that the bylaw pass second reading.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None, motion carries.
And I move that council direct staff to hold a public hearing for zoning amendment bylaw 2026, number 4500.254.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None, motion carries. On to development approval information amendment bylaw 2026, number 7346.01. Councillor Hemmons.
Thank you. I move that development approval information bylaw 2026, number 7346.01, master development plan, pass first reading.
Seconded Councillor Armstrong. All those in, Councillor Brown, got a question?
A question, just I won't be supporting these next three, or sorry, the next few. Actually, I appreciate the intent and the work behind them. I just think often planning regulatory frameworks can get too strict, and I think this is just going a little bit too far, and I would prefer to keep it more open and flexible. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor? And those opposed? Councillor Brown. Everyone else in favor? Thank you.
I move that the bylaw pass second reading.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? And those opposed? Councillor Brown opposed. Motion carries.
And I move that the bylaw pass third reading.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Brown. Motion carries. And finally, the Master Development Plan Policy. Councillor Hemmons.
Thank you. I move that council endorse COU 256, master development plan policy.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor and opposed? Councillor Brown opposed. Motion carries. On to E, Council Resolutions Update. Ms. Gurry, please.
Thank you, Worship. So the report in front of you tonight, is to provide Council with a status update on resolutions made by Council from 2024, January 15th to 2026, May 4th. A caveat to that, though, is that the resolutions In attachment A, which are completed resolutions, are from January 20th, 2025, up to the date of report, which was May 4th, 2026. This attachment A includes 213 resolutions. As council meets at regular or special council meetings, you make resolutions to forward on the business of the city. These motions are noted and tracked by staff, and they help us to inform department work plans. So resolutions are reviewed and updated by staff on a regular basis, and to reflect whether they are in progress, completed, or not started. And this report is being brought to you to note those reports and those resolutions and where they stand. So as I was saying, in attachment A, there are the 213 resolutions. There's been 165 that have been completed since the last report to you, which was January 28th, 2025. July 28th, 2025. These do not include the regular business of council because of the volume of information. There would be over 500 resolutions had I included the regular business such as DPs, DVPs, rezonings, heritage facade applications, etc. Of note, in the last year since the last report, the DPs and DVPs that have gone to council, there's been 66, and those don't include the ones that the authorities delegated to staff to approve. So council yourselves have approved 66 development permits and DVPs since the last report I brought to you. 38 resolutions from January 15th, 2024 to May 4th, 2026 that are in progress or not started are reported in attachment B. And I went back to January 15th, 2024 for this attachment so I could show you those that were still outstanding from 2024. I had reported to you on some of those in the last report in July of 2025, but I also attached in attachment C 31 resolutions and the update of the status as to where they are now. So you can see that when they were reported last summer, of those 31 resolutions, most of them are completed now. So there's a few that are still outstanding, and they would also be reflected in attachment B. So of note, in these resolutions, they include, since the last report, 44 committee meetings where work has been done, and under consent items, these resolutions then come to your council meetings. So there's been 44 meetings, which include GPC, Public Safety, Advisory Committee on Accessibility and Inclusiveness, Finance and Audit, and Special Public Hearing, though those are removed because they mostly include rezoning applications. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and staff are here to answer any questions on any of the outstanding reports. And of note, so this won't include any of the action items that come out of tonight's meeting and or our last council meeting, such as council notices of motions and or those under other business. So it's just a reflection of the work that staff have done and that are currently working on, and to give you that status update of this point of time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gurry. Councillor Manley?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question through you to staff. When talking to Mr. Lindsay, he was saying that potentially the amendment to zoning bylaw number 4500 on emissions intense heavy industry might be coming to council in the second quarter, and I'm just wondering if that's still on track.
Mr. Holm?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Through to Councillor Manley's question, that's possible. That'd be the earliest that we'd see it coming forward. Staff are starting work on that request, the resolution, and it's possible to be coming forward in the second quarter.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, appreciate the report and update, Ms. Gurry. We're on to development reports. The first is Covenant Amendment number CA 20 and Development Permit DP 1373-6055 Turner Road and 6045 Lindley Valley Drive. And Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Your Worship. I need to recuse myself from this item as I have a relative involved in the development.
Very good. Thank you. It's requested that council hear from anyone wishing to speak to covenant amendment application number CA 20-6055 Turner Road and 6045 Lindley Valley Drive. I'm not seeing anyone who wishes to speak to it. Someone care to make the recommended motion? Moved Councillor Perino, seconded Councillor Hemmons. All those in favor? Sorry, Councillor Gesselbrock.
I have some questions to staff here. At the most recent neighborhood association engagement and feedback, the Rutherford Neighborhood Association brought up specifically a large concern about development in this area and the amount of development in this area and the loss of treed and green spaces. And one thing that was brought to my attention was that the surface parking wasn't included in the calculation of maximum lot coverage for a development. And my concern here is that I'm just curious why this covenant was put in place in the first place, and was that for reasons of minimizing sort of the impact of loss of green space? That's my first question.
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Gesselbrecht. Yeah, the requirement around 90% underground parking or under-building parking would have been related to the form of development that was considered. Originally, it was intended to be taller format, and we're seeing what we're seeing now that's economically viable is the 4 to 6 story format, and yeah, so it would have been related more to the form of development, as well as obviously less surface parking. There's the potential to preserve more open space. In this case, part of the requirement is to secure a minimum of 32% open space, green space, over both lots through this development. So yeah, there obviously less surface parking provides more opportunity to retain open space, but in this case, the proposal does include a security of 32% of the green space over both lots, despite the move to more surface parking.
Okay, great. And I think that's the concern, is just the cost of building and what's currently being built, the cost. Then putting the underground parking kind of limits that, and so it's all being pushed on the surface, and because there's no maximum lot coverage, it's not calculated that more and more space is being covered by surface parking. And so I get my second question is that the 32% green space that is being requested with this change, would that be more than what would be required currently on any lot like this being developed, or is that sort of like what most lots like this being developed would require in terms of leaving, a non-impermeable surface space?
Yeah, through your worship, to Councillor Gesselbrecht. So there isn't actually an explicit requirement for percentage of open space in the zoning. It's really an effect of a design review process, but also looking at, and it depends on the site. It's site specific, but it depends on setbacks. It depends on how they're addressing stormwater management on site, what natural features are on site that are protected by bylaw or warrant protection. So it's really very site specific, but in the and design driven in response to development permit area guidelines and the engineering standards requirements with respect to stormwater runoff. So it's not as much prescriptive as it is design driven and site specific. There is no explicit percentage of green space required, if that helps explain.
Right, so this one here, it just sets a very clear parameter around it.
Yes, that's what's been proposed, given that the move is from a larger percentage of required underbuilding parking to less. They're proposing to include a commitment to percentage of green space or open space on the site.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, you know, having grown up in that area and just looking at the change, I am quite struck by the amount of paved area that's there and kind of the expansive parking lots that exist, especially around the residential buildings. And so, you know, I can understand the pressures of cost, but I am a little concerned about the surface area of parking not being included in the maximum lot surface, lot coverage, and yeah, I have difficulty supporting this, just given the current trend in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong?
My question's actually going towards the loading bay where they want to decrease it, because if you look, and I'm looking at attachment D for those that care, that road coming in across from the two furniture stores, that already is so narrow that the fire department had to go in and remove the parking from the one side because you couldn't get a fire truck up both sides. So where are they going to be able to park moving in trucks? There's no place to do it if they remove that loading zone and drop it down to 6.5 meters, which would never, ever fit a moving truck. That's my concern, number one. I also agree with the points raised. I live in that neighborhood, and a lot of people are very concerned about this because parking is a major issue there now. So I do struggle with it because I don't know where they're going to get all the parking for the cars that aren't accommodated there, as well as if they've got access to the private strata road already, because it looks like they made that agreement, but because I don't think this comes back to us and DP does it, it stays with staff.
Yes, that's correct. This is council's decision on the covenant and development permit.
Yeah, no, I struggle with this too. I think it's just a lot. Thanks.
Thank you very much. No further discussion. All those in favor? Councillors Hemmens, Mayor Krogh, Councillor Saperino, Councillor Brown, and those opposed. Councillors Armstrong, Gesselbrock, Manley. Carries. Thank you. No, Councillor Armstrong. There's a second motion. Thank you. Second motion been moved by Councillor Perino, seconded by Councillor Hemmens. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor, Councillors Hemmens, Mayor Krogh, Councillor Perino, Councillor Brown. Those opposed, Councillors Gesselbrock, Councillor Armstrong, Councillor Manley. Motion carries. Thank you. Now we can get Councillor Thorpe back in. The next is liquor license amendment application number LA 169-150 Skinner Street. There is a recommended motion. Someone care to make it? Moved Councillor Armstrong, seconded. Councillor Hemmens. Discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And any opposed? None. Motion carries. The next is C, rezoning application number RA 506 and development permit application number DP 1332-1901 Northfield Road. There is a recommended motion. Actually, it's a bylaw. Sorry. Councillor Hemmens, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2026, number 4500.251 to rezone 1901 Northfield Road from 3 and 4 unit residential R5 to medium density residential R8 pass first reading.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. Any discussion? All those in favor and any opposed? None. Motion carries.
I move that the bylaw pass second reading.
Seconded Councillor Perino. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
And I move that the bylaw pass third reading.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Finally, I move that council direct staff to secure the conditions related to zoning amendment bylaw 2026, number 4500.251, as outlined in the conditions of rezoning section of the staff report titled Rezoning Application Number RA 506 and Development Permit Application Number DP 1332-1901 Northfield Road, dated 2026, May 25th, prior to final adoption.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. We're on to D, rezoning application number RA 521-2565, Departure Bay Road. We do have a delegation. It's Councillor Gesselbrock, sorry.
I just wonder if I could recuse myself for an earlier declared conflict of interest, perceived conflict of interest.
Mr. Patey, good evening.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council.
5 minutes, four at 4. I'll let you know you've got one left.
Sounds
please.
good. My name's Dave Patey. I'm a planning consultant here on behalf of owners Daniel and Tasha Martinez. When we met council on April 13th, where council gave first reading, there were a lot of questions and concerns around this application, and so I wanted to provide just a brief presentation to go over the development, our philosophy around it, and hopefully allay some of council's concerns and maybe answer some questions at the end. Okay, so going back, this development, we started this process back in early 2024, and in 2023, we know that staff was already proactively considering updating zoning along key corridors throughout the city to for areas that would be appropriate for increasing density and Departure Bay. And in particular, as you can see on the screen, this property is included within a block of properties that were identified for an increase in density. Our team did do a yield analysis on this one. We looked at 3 different scenarios, all of which, of course, are consistent with city plan. And of course, I'm speaking more to the R7 zone and the R8 option. We did look at the subdivision scenario, of course, because under the R5 zone, this property does support a total of 5 units, and it also has enough residual land area left for a park dedication, which under provincial legislation is 5% of the total parcel area. Through discussions with staff, or before I go there, we talked about both the R7 scenario, and I'll add that at the time that we were looking at this yield analysis, this property did include the property to the south at 2555, but that property is no longer included within this application. And so now we are just talking about the northern parcel, 2565. So we looked at both R7, and we looked at the R8 zone as well. And if you see in the image in the R8 zone, we were anticipating or considering a multifamily building at the front of the site with the rest of the site built out in your typical townhouse type of scenario. And then, of course, the R7 option. And I will say that the R7 zone was specifically amended as part of the package of amendments in June of 2024 for the small-scale multi-unit housing package that went to council. And prior to that time, the R7 zone was primarily limited to steep slope properties throughout the city, and not many of them, and based on a density target of 16 units per hectare or portion thereof. As part of the package of amendments, staff and council amended the R7 zone to add a multifamily component to it to make it more broadly applicable throughout the city, and in particular to sites like this that are ideally suited for that type of density. Just going back to our subdivision plan, we want to dig a little bit deeper into it, and we did discuss with staff kind of like, and this goes back to our previous slide a little bit, the most kind of comfortable approach to develop this property, and staff at that time felt that the most comfortably supportable approach would be the R7 zone. But just touching on the subdivision layout, we went so far as to have it properly surveyed, so we could prove it out. And all of the lots do meet the minimum lot area frontage and depth requirements. There is no access is provided on Departure Bay Road, Strongth Arm Avenue. It meets the crossing control bylaw, the subdivision bylaw, the zoning bylaw, and as such, in our opinion, it's a fully supportable development. Now, one of the things that we do caution in a layout like this, and that we were concerned about, and why we are taking the approach that we are, is that when you have internalized access like this to a bunch of lots, most developers would approach that as a kind of an inside-out scenario where you get garage-fronted architecture focused inward, and then the outside of the lot would have essentially the back of houses presented to all the fronting roads, which doesn't really create a very nice development scenario. At the neighborhood public meeting, we did hear a lot of concerns about impacts to views, so we did do a view analysis, and as you can see, there is potential minor impacts to one building that you can see the white left block at the top, left-hand side of the image. And here you see in the lower right-hand portion of the image, we did take efforts to respond to that by lowering the buildings at the rear portion of the site down to 2 stories.
If you could wrap up.
I can wrap. This development is consistent with all of the key policies in city plan, and it's an ideal project. It fits exactly within policies. And if
Thank
council
you.
likes, I can answer
Questions for the delegation? Councillor Prino?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question, if I might. You said there, I just wanted you to show again the area that you have the 2 stories versus the 3 stories. I want to just make sure I knew that where it was. And that area circled in the red is at the back end, the upper part. Is that correct?
Through your worship, thank you, Councillor Perino. That's correct. That block is to the, I guess I don't have it in the site plan. Within your staff report, you do have the site plan provided, and this would be areas or buildings D and A, and they do face the, I believe it's Lindley.
Okay. And thank you. And just one more quick question. How many units altogether?
In total, there are 19 units on this site.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Manley?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, just going back to the original plan and the original meeting, I think that there was objections to having a floor area ratio that could potentially go beyond what was proposed, and so now the proponent has limited that floor area ratio to 0.75 as the maximum density, so it's going to follow the plan that we've seen presented.
Through your worship, thank you for the question, Councillor Manley. That's correct. We have always been comfortable without an amount of density, and one of the things that, the thing that limits density on this site is parking. We looked at, we tried to fit as, of course, as much density as we can on this site in order to make this project financially feasible, because it's a very expensive project. And just to give you a very quick idea about the limitations of parking on density, for 19 units based on 3-bedroom units, these are all 3-bedroom units, which we feel is appropriate for this market in the Departure Bay. The parking bylaw requires 2 parking spaces per unit, which results in 38 spaces. If we reduce our bedroom size to 2 units and try to squeeze a few more units on it, 21 units, for instance, it results in 38 spaces. If we pitch 22 units, it goes to 40 spaces, and if we tried 24 units, it goes up to 43 spaces. So it's a metric of how much building you can shoehorn on the site and still meet the parking requirement without any variances. Was our approach.
And so with subdivision, you could have gone for 20 units, but you're sticking to 19. So, okay, thank you for that.
That's correct.
Thank you. No further questions to the delegation. Appreciate Mr. Beatty. Councillor Himmons?
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2026, number 4500.250, pass second reading as amended.
Seconded, Councillor Armstrong. Discussion? Councillor Hemmens?
Sorry, thank you, Your Worship. I just want to say I supported this project when it came forward in April. I support it tonight. Townhomes are a built form that we know the community wants and needs. 19 three-bedroom units in one of our most established neighborhoods with amenities all around is exactly the kind of density that I'm interested in. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor? Councillors Armstrong, Hemmens? Oh, well, everybody. No, any opposed? None, motion carries. Thank you.
I move that the bylaw pass third reading.
Seconded, Councillor Perino. All those in favor? And any opposed? None, motion carries.
Finally, I move that council direct staff to secure the conditions related to zoning amendment bylaw 2026, number 4500.250, as outlined in the conditions of rezoning section of the staff report titled Rezoning Application Number RA 521-2565 Departure Bay Road, dated 2026, April 13, prior to final adoption.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? And any opposed? None, motion carries. Thank you.
Your Worship, my apologies before we move on. If we could revisit the last item, there was the last resolution there, number 5, was missing from the annotated agenda. My apologies for that. So it's on your agenda front pages and your agenda package, but it was missing from the annotated script version that's in front of you for your reference. So if you wouldn't mind considering that, yes, please.
Councillor Hemmens moves what's outlined in blue. Councillor Armstrong seconds. Sorry, Councillor Gesselbrock, you can't jump back yet. Oh, sorry, Northfield, sorry.
We're on the previous matter, Your Worship, so it's okay that Councillor Gesselbrock is here. Thank you.
All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. We have no bylaws. Under correspondence, Ms. Gurry, you might want to comment on the first two quarterly report correspondence from the ombudsperson.
That's correct, Your Worship.
Time to brag.
Yes, so we did well again on both of those quarterly reports. And then the third item is correspondence, and it's looking for a letter of support if someone on council wishes to provide a motion for that.
The correspondence from the ombudsperson's office gives us an excellent grade, I might say. So with respect to correspondence dated May 14th from United Against Hate Canada recommendation to Parliament for Canadian Chinese Heritage Month. Moved by Councillor Manley, seconded by Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. We have two notices of motion. Notice given by Councillor Manley respecting a motion re-amendments to Noise Control Bylaw 1994, number 4750. And Councillor Hemmens, a motion re-prohibited camping. We have no other business that I'm aware of.
Yes, we do, Your Worship, on the
Pardon
very,
me, yes, it's under other business. Councillor Gesselbrock, motion re-cities building permits. Councillor Gesselbrock, do you want to make the motion, or do people want to ask staff questions first?
You want me to read it out? All right, I move the motion.
And is there a seconded? Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Gesselbrock, do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, basically the reason for this motion is simple. It creates an accountability framework for the improvements council is committed to making to the building permit process. In 2021, council committed to create a faster and clearer permit process and endorsed a series of recommendations to achieve that. The April update showed us that where some real progress has been made through initiatives like the Fast Track program, Certified Professional program, and the Advisory Working Group, and the implementations of some new process technology. This motion is intended to support and build on that work. The recent report we received was pretty candid. However, 5 years after our permit review, it's still unclear whether permit turnaround times have meaningfully improved, partly because we still do not have the reliable ways to measure them. One of the causes of delays also continues to be referrals between departments, compounded by staffing shortages in development engineering, which we address with the new higher. There's several important recommendations that have been needed to work on. That includes internal service agreement between departments, an audit of the certified professional program, decoupling design stage acceptance from the building permit process, and exploring more risk-based differentiation in application reviews, and then implementing modern submission tracking and review software. So there is still a significant work ahead, and staff may require additional resources to complete it. This motion makes clear that improving permit efficiency is a council priority, and it asks staff to return with an implementation plan for the outstanding recommendations and identify what additional capacity or resources are needed so council can properly support the work rather than ask staff to do more with less. The motion also requests interim measures to improve tracking of internal referrals while the new software system is being implemented. In addition, it calls for quarterly updates to the Governance and Priorities Committee on implementation progress of the permit review recommendations so progress on the commitments can be monitored. Finally, the motion asks staff to provide a report on reestablishing service standards and target timelines for each permit category for the portions of the city process the city controls. This is important because it gives the building community greater certainty for financial planning and helps identify across all parties where delays are occurring so they can be addressed more effectively and resource appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you. I don't know if our CEO is there, but I had a conversation about this on the timeline, and I believe there's not staff capacity, so a consultant will have to be hired. So I'm just wondering what the cost of the consultant would be.
Mr. Holm?
No,
Mr. Lindsay?
CEO's there.
Good evening, Council, and thank you for the question. As you've heard tonight, there's a number of items in your ongoing list of projects you have for staff, which is one constraint. But as Councillor Armstrong noted, and I think you heard through the presentations on building permits, we have challenges in our staffing right now, just in terms of getting all of our positions filled. So pulling from existing staff to work on this would be difficult, and it would probably have negative short-term consequences. So Councillor Armstrong's quite right. If we come back and we'll bring back a report, Council can expect that you'll see in their recommendations to bring in additional resources to get this done in a timely manner. I had the opportunity, anticipating that this motion would get to this table, I had the opportunity to talk to Mr. Holm and also with our IT department, Mr. Ng, and both are recommending additional resources in the short term, simply because we just cannot pivot on other major projects, especially that IT are supporting right now. So, sorry, that was a long answer, but yes, we will be coming back with a recommendation for additional resources. I'm sorry, I don't have an exact number for you in terms of cost.
That's my concern, especially with the timeline of 60 days. Like we keep saying we want to get these permits done, but we keep pulling our staff that do the permits, do all these reports. We've got a lot of outstanding ones, so I think we as a council maybe need to start looking at, could be a GPC topic. What are the priorities for us on all our outstanding motions and start prioritizing them? Because I don't know how many I counted, tens of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perino, then Councillor Thorpe, then Councillor Hemmens, and Councillor Gesselbrock again.
Thank you, Your Worship, and a question through you to our CAO. Councillor Armstrong said pretty much everything that I was feeling as well. My concern is, given everything that she had said, is this doable? Is this doable at this time? Because it's a good motion. We certainly need it. I certainly agree with it, but I want to make sure that we can accomplish what we're setting out to do. We don't want to put a motion on the floor that doesn't have a hope of getting through. And consultants are expensive. Or should we be looking at a consultant, staffing? I'm just looking for, is this a reality?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Perino, if the motion passes, then we will come back to Council within that time frame with a report and have a little bit more detail. But you're both correct in that staff right now, staff capacity is limited, just given the numbers of staff we have, but also just the number and variety of projects that they're being tasked with right now. So additional resources, consultants will be required, both in IT, on the IT side, and in the planning side to help get this work done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
Very much, Your Worship. Through you, if I may, I agree with the comments of Councillor Armstrong, and that was my concern when I read this motion, which is quite specific and quite comprehensive. Starts out return within 60 days with an implementation plan for each accepted permit process review recommendation. There was a number of recommendations which the development industry accepted and seemed happy with. And I know that our staff are going to try and bring about improvements, and I think monitoring those improvements is important. I just feel that the timeline here is unreasonable, and I don't think it's fair to our staff. As we've just heard, they're already short-staffed in this department. So I don't want to see more time spent on a report telling us basically what we already know and something that we're already going to be working on. So I'm sorry, again, I appreciate the intent, but I don't think I can support this.
Thank you. Councillor Himmins.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to ask staff additional resources to get this work done. That was from the CAO. I don't think anyone at this table is against adding resources to the building or to the planning department to get our building permits out faster. I would be shocked if anyone was against that. The additional resources, you can bring it to us and ask, but if that is the solution, then I think we would have heard that. So my question for you, Mr. Lindsay, is the additional resources to get this work done, meaning respond to the motion, or additional resources to get the permits sped up? Because if it's the latter, then I'm in favor, but if it's the former, if it's really we're going to add resources to get this report, I don't want that. I want permits out faster.
Sorry, thank you through your worship. It's certainly, I think it's likely a combination of both. We may be looking for some help in the short term to make sure we hit the time frame. I think more importantly, some of the long-term recommendations around software changes and making sure we make those improvements quickly. That's more what I'm talking about. We are going to be looking at external resources if we want to move forward this in the short term. Just given the capacity we have in our existing IT teams and the projects they're already committed to. So I think it's a combination, but it's probably more on the implementation side that I'm referring to.
Thank you. Before I go to Councillor Gesselbrock, I'm going to go to Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is really, really important. And if it takes more resources, it is what it is. Like, this is something that we've had so much talk about as a council. There's huge demand for us to get better in this department, and this is how we're going to do that by taking a hard look at it and setting some actual goals and deadlines. And expected timeframes. So I think this is really critical for us to uphold our end of what our council is saying as far as we're really interested in improving building permit times. And this is what it's going to take. So if it takes more resources, that's the cost of us doing what we said we were going to do and make this process better for everyone. So I'm happy to support this, and I'm grateful for Councillor Gesselbrock for working on this motion.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Manley. Councillor Gesselbrock, you're on the list, but let's let the first-time speakers go. Councillor Manley.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with Councillor Eastmere. We need to get the development permit process rolling along, and if that means that we need to hire consultants to improve our systems, then so be it. Let's get this cracking. We've seen reports. We've talked about this over and over again that we need to speed up the development permit process times, and so let's hire some consultants and get a process that works for the development community, because we're talking about it costing us money for consultants, and we heard very clearly from the development community that it's a very expensive process to delay development processes while they wait for the city. So let's make improvements. I trust our staff to get things done. We do need to hire people, and if that means we bring in consultants in the short term to work on these improvements, then let's do it. Thanks.
Thank you. We're going back to second-time speakers, so I'll go back to Councillor Gesselbrock.
Thank you. The motion is really clear that this is asking staff to establish their own timelines on implementation and to come back to council with what additional resources they would need to execute on the timelines that they're going to come back to us with on the different technology fronts or within the internal service agreement. But we all unanimously raised our hands to endorse the recommendations from the last review, some recommendations that were still outstanding from 2021. This motion is just asking, can you please provide us with a implementation plan and tell us what resources, if you don't have them, that you'd need to actually implement this stuff over the timelines requested. I think that is more than reasonable, and if folks don't think 60 days to provide that is insufficient, or if staff believe they don't have the capacity to provide an outline of a plan and request for resources within 60 days, then I'm happy for council members to make amendments on that. But the rest of the motion is not timeline dependent or whatever. It's asking what's the plan to implement this and what are the resources needed. We can decide if we don't want to put any additional resources to speeding up the technological implementation of things or the internal service agreements, but it doesn't make sense to just endorse recommendations and then have no framework around it. And this is why an accountability framework is needed, to say that, yeah, we're taking this seriously, and we're here to support staff. And I think staff needs to hear from council that this is an important issue for this, and we would like to support you in the implementation of this in a reasonable timeline. Please let us know what that is. So I do hope that council supports this motion. I think there's a lot of expectation that we do take this front seriously, and I think this is a very reasonable outline of how to go do that. That's respectful of all parties and really cognizant of what are the resource needs and limitations that we have to just make it clear for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmons.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you to Councillor Gesselbrook. I appreciate that. Further context, I again have to go back to the point, this isn't a struggle of whether we think additional resources is worthwhile. For me, it's if the CAO felt that just adding resources was going to get us out of the mess that we all know we're in, nobody denies that, then I think we would have had that recommendation come forward. So it's the specificity of this that I struggle with, but I completely hear Councillor Gesselbrook. We all approve these recommendations. So I guess my question for the CAO is, yes, we did approve these recommendations. In the absence of this resolution, how would you go about operationalizing? Is this going to speed up our implementation of the recommendations that we all approved?
Your Worship, I guess I'm interpreting this as if council passes this motion, of course, this is a priority, and council would like to see this elevated in your priority list of projects you want us to work on. And I guess I'm not saying, I hope council didn't take it as I'm saying don't do this work because we have to bring consultants in. I was just more putting a marker down that if we bring this back and we're moving to fast track and implement this work, we are going to need to bring in additional resources. It's not a negative or positive comment, it's just a fact that giving council a heads up that'll be one of the recommendations that'll come back in the report. Much of this work is underway certainly the recommendations of the report is underway. We don't, I guess with the exceptions, there's a few things, I'm just reading the motion, there's a few things that are added, like the quarterly reporting on the update. That would be obviously something that wasn't included in the original motion, that kind of additional reporting.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong and Councillor Perino.
My concern, like I'm okay with, it's the 60 days. Like I don't think our staff has, like we're going to be pulling staff away that are supposed to be working on permits to do this report. That's my concern, number one, or we hire a consultant. When we talk about additional members, that's something to be talked about at the finance and audit when we do our financial plan. And that's not up to this council to do, in my opinion. That's up to the next council. Second point is, this is gonna take us, even with this 60 days, to probably August 1st, and we don't work in August. So I would like to see a different date, like, I mean, personally, I think it should wait for the next council, but that's neither here nor there. My concern just remains that we keep piling this work on staff, and everything's a priority. We haven't sat down and looked at our priorities. We're telling them everything's a priority, so it's not fair to the staff. From my perspective, like, we gotta have these conversations. We can't keep giving them work when they don't have the staff to do it. Or we give them a budget that, you know, like, I don't know, is a consultant gonna be 100,000, 200,000? I don't know. And that's a concern for me. Like, when we're starting to talk in dollars on something like this, we could be talking 6 figures, and that's considerable. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Worship. I just want to bring up something that Councillor Hammond said, and it was, consultants are expensive and they're short-term. If we need more staff, we need more staff. And I would prefer to see us spend the money on more staff, permanent, to get the work done, because we know the work is there. We keep putting this off. We've been here 4 years and we're still facing the same issues. If we need more staff, we need more staff. I just, I agree with consultants, but in this particular case, I would much prefer to have something more long-term to get the work caught up and keep it going in the right direction. That's just my point of view.
Thank you. Councillor Gesselbach and Councillor Thorpe.
That's good.
Councillor Thorpe.
Thanks, Your Worship. Not to prolong this, I'm sorry, I just find this way too specific. The recommendations that we had brought to us, which were well received and heard by staff, indicated that we were under-resourced in this department. We all want to see things improve. We're not disagreeing with that at all. But so what are we going to do? Hire a consultant to come in and tell us that we need to hire more staff, which we've been trying to do for years now. So I just don't see the point of having our staff given the burden of writing quarterly reports and staff spending time on other reports that are requested here, and then on top of all that, putting a fairly tight time frame on it. And I'm sorry, but I think 60 days is pretty tight. So I think staff have heard the message. I think we are doing what we can to improve in this area, and I'm sorry, I just don't think this is necessary, and I don't think spending money on further consultants will be helpful at all.
Thank you. Councillor Gesselbach. Pardon me, Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to follow up on Councillor Perino's comment and just reconfirm that this last review did identify where there was a need for more long-term resources, and I appreciate Council supported us in that. We're moving forward with filling those positions now. So you added an extra position in our development engineering section, which was identified as a pinch point, and we look forward to filling that position. So the report has recommended staffing, and we are taking advantage of that.
Councillor Gesselbach.
Thanks.
The third time, and then Councillor May. Third time.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the actual resourcing and staff needed to actually process the development permits has been identified. I do think that there is a gap in strategic project management on this that the burden is put on directors or that already have a lot of responsibilities, and I do think that maybe there is a gap in sort of moving forward strategic project that just implementing sort of like the internal service agreements, identifying sort of the implementation of the computer software, and I think that we need to recognize that these are things that we identified in 2021 to implement, and they haven't been implemented yet, and that if there is this gap, that we should focus on it and put a framework in place that we can just address it. And I think that's why this accountability framework is needed, so that we can demonstrate that we are moving forward something that we've committed to. I don't think that if 60 days feels unreasonable to people, then let's extend that length of time. But I think 2 months, have the amount of discussion that has gone into, and like staff are already clearly working on these items. is more than enough to come back to council with timelines and what needs to be done in terms of executing on the internal service agreements, when the working group's going to discuss the de-risking, how the decoupling is going to happen, and move this project forward so that we can all feel confident that it's being given the energy that it deserves. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Manley.
Thank you. I've got 2 amendments to this motion, starting with return within 60 days with and to remove that and just say develop an implementation plan, and then instead of provide quarterly, provide annual reports, written status updates.
Moving the amendment?
Yes.
Seconder? Not seeing any?
Sure.
Councillor Hemmons seconds. Councillor Manley, you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, I think staff's already working on this. As Councillor Armstrong has pointed out, 60 days is going to take us into August. This is likely to be coming back to us with a new council, which makes sense. Maybe quarterly written status reports are a bit onerous, and so, but getting an annual report on where we're going with this. So this is an annual governance and priorities report that we get from staff on how we're working towards implementing better standards for our development permits.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmons and Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to ask the CAO if we remove the 60 days and just say bring an implementation plan and provide, instead of quarterly updates, annual updates, how does that change from what we're doing right now? Which is, we all recommended that we implement the plan. I suppose we see the implementation plan, but we would receive annual updates anyway, so I'm just not sure. I appreciate where Councillor Manley is trying to go here, but I'm not sure that it changes it substantially from what staff is already working on, which makes it completely benign.
Mr. Holmes.
Thank you,
Mr. Lindsay.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I think the significant part of that is the message that there's going to be a plan, a plan that we can share both with council and the community of what the implementation plan is. So although staff are working on this, well, I would interpret this motion as an interest both in sharing with council and with the community on how we're progressing on these actions. So,
Mr. Holm.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I just add to that too that for clarity too and context, the consultant didn't. The consultant identified a critical bottleneck. I mean, there was a flashing red light on the bottleneck with respect to the development engineering capacity. It's pretty obvious and an area of challenge. His real the real Nielsen Strategies initially was engaged to give an update on the implementation of the 2021 review. So it wasn't necessarily a deep dive on the resources. It was a needed or even developing additional recommendations. The consultant did give an update on where we were at with the city was at with the 2021 review, and as well through the work that was done, did identify the five additional recommendations in 2026 to carry forward. Did not do a deep dive into the resources required, which I think this is kind of getting at, and also this is getting at options for additional resources. So I guess we could look at, do we go faster or slower? What does that look like resource-wise? So it does highlight that this motion is looking for an implementation plan, and it's looking for options for additional resources that could accelerate the execution. So yeah, it's there could be different speeds of progress that we can look at depending on the resourcing that ultimately council may be looking to consider. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere. before I go to Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. I'm not in favor of this amendment, particularly the part about annual status updates. Like, if this is an issue that we're serious about solving, getting an annual update, like, that's like once every 4 years, and I think that's why we're in this situation, because we all have known that this is that this is an issue and one that we want to solve, but we haven't had regular touch points on it to have that conversation about how things are going and what we can be doing better and how we can be better supporting staff. So I think, like, while we're really motivated to get a handle on this issue and make the situation better for the development community, that's why the quarterly updates are an important part of that, so that you have regular check-ins on, like, how is it going, how can we better support you, and then, you know, if the problem gets sees real improvement, then you can kind of take your foot off the gas a little bit and be like, okay, like, this is under control. But for now, I think that part is really important. And then as far as the 60 days implementation plan, or for the implementation plan, I also think it's really important to have a sense of a deadline of when this is coming back to us, because as we've said, there's so much that staff are doing that, like, we can't afford for this to fall by the wayside, because many of us are really motivated to see this situation improve. So I really appreciated the 60-day turnaround. And if staff need more time after that 60 days, they can come back to us and say that they need more time, and so be it. But I do think that's a key part of it. So I'm not in favor of this amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong on the amendment.
Thank you. I think what we're all forgetting about is that staff have been trying to staff these positions. We have the positions that are there, but they're not filled. So that's a big issue. So we've got a bunch of staff trying to do the work that they can't get done because they're filling holes. Like, we're not going to fix this problem by these comments that we're hearing here. We're going to fix the problems once staff is able to hire the right people. And let's not forget, with our current labor laws and stuff, there's some people that may be off for sickness or pregnancy or whatever. Those positions can't be filled right now. That's one of our big issues. We heard our CAO say, because they found the pinch point and they're in the process of hiring somebody there, that could possibly fix our whole issues. I think we're getting way too far ahead right now without giving our staff the chance to get the staff in place to do that. I also believe that if it is a staffing issue, that is something that our CAO, in conjunction with Mr. Holmes, will be bringing forward a report come our financial plan to saying, based on all these, we make a recommendation, we need 3 more spots. Just like we do every single year, just like we've given them approval. I believe it was last year or 2 years ago where we've approved positions for that. So I'm not supporting any of this right now. I think we've got to let our staff fix it, and they're trying.
Thank you. On the amendment, Councillor Manley.
Yeah, I would just say the third part of this is actually new to the reestablishing and implementing service standards and target timelines for each permit category was something that was discussed but wasn't part of one of the recommendations. Yeah.
Thank you. On the motion to amend, Councillor Gesselbrock.
Thank you. I think it was clear in the report from the consultant that there were staffing issues in the development engineering, but there is some outstanding things that hadn't been addressed outside of staff, and it was really implementing process review things, and also the internal service agreements, and also the implementation of the software, along with some other elements, and that just needed to be implemented. And I'm not in support of the amendment just because I do think 60 days is more than reasonable to come back with an implementation plan on those items. It's not, staff can decide the timelines, and also staff are able in the report to say what timelines they would need more resources or not. And so it leaves everything into staff's hands. We're not forcing anything on top of them, and this is really asking how we could support staff better to meet these objectives. I'm not in support of the amendment because I think that how it is very reasonable, and quarterly status report doesn't need to be long. but it can just review where the recommendations, where things are at on the implementation strategy. And it's a very rote way of monitoring the progress on, a strategic initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion on the floor is the amendment made by Councillor Manley. Those in favor? Councillor Manley. Those opposed? Everybody else? I'd say that's defeated. Back on the main motion. I haven't spoken yet. Anybody remember the Cecil B. DeMille version of the Ten Commandments, the movie, where the Israelites are instructed by the overseers, their slave masters? Pardon me? Are instructed by their overseers, the slave masters, to make more bricks with less straw? Look, we have heard over and over again, both in this chamber and in discussion, that we have positions that we have not been able to fill for years relating to development and building permits. We know that. As I have repeated the sage advice of Peter Ramsey many times as well to this council, you lay with the tracks, you don't play with the trains. Mr. Lindsay, our CAO, Mr. Holm, everybody in senior management understands that we'd all like to get developments approved faster if they're approved or going to be approved. We'd like to get building permits out the door faster. We've had a major study and recommendations. It takes time. We know we have unfilled positions. With great respect, this motion in its entirety, in my respectful opinion, is great politics, but it's poor governance. It speaks to trying to manage what our staff are doing. It is not our job to manage the staff. Our job is to support staff in what we ask them to do, which is to speed up the process as best they can within the circumstances that allow them to do so, which is resources. If they can't fill positions, they can't fill positions, you can't fill positions. With respect, Councillor Gesselbrock, I see you've asked to speak, fourth time, not going to happen. So, I am not going to support this motion. I expect the leadership team in this city to do their job, setting guidelines in terms of times, asking for reports. These are all, with respect, apart from the 60-day implementation plan, these are all things that are within the purview of the management of our city. I'll leave it at that. Those in favor of the motion? Councillor Gesselbrock, Councillor Manley, Councillor Eastmer, and those opposed, Councillor Armstrong, Councillor Hemmons, Mayor Krogh, Councillor Thorpe, Councillor Perino. The motion is defeated. Is there anything on question period, Ms. Curry? No. Thank you very much, Councillor Armstrong. Seconded, Councillor Perino. Appreciate this very much, everyone. Thank you to the public for staying to watch and observe. Thank you to staff, as always, for your work, and to council for their work. We are adjourned.